have, and I promised you at the top of the hour, we have our call-in guest, candidate, another judicial candidate who's going to be who's on the ballot along with the presidential elections, which are coming. The general election is November 3rd, 2020. You still can early vote at the Board of Elections all the way up until Monday the 2nd, 3, and then go to your general places on the 3rd of November. There's still openings this weekend to early vote, including tomorrow, which is Halloween or All Hallows Eve. So you have any questions, you can call in at 216-772-0500. So we're just going to start off the bat before I get into anything else. Mr. Vodrey, you on the line? I'm fine. How are you? Hold on for just a second. Let me just turn this up for just a second. Can you hear me? You're welcome. Hold on for just a second. Let me turn this up a little bit for the audience that can hear. Can you hear me now? Okay. So, first of all, thank you very much for coming on early. So early. I know you're on the campaign trail. So, would you introduce yourself to the audience that's listening in internet, voice it, radio land, and headlines and headaches land?
For the last 19 years, I've been serving in the municipal court, and now I'd like to take my experience, my skills, my passion, and commitment to justice to a higher court.
Okay, and that would be the Court of Common Pleas, correct? Okay. So so right now you're a magistrate, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Magistrates under Ohio law are appointed, and judges are elected. So I'm running for a higher court and for a judgeship.
Okay. So the thing about it is, first of all, what does the court that you're going for, what does that court handle?
Sure. The Court of Common Pleas. Every one of Ohio's 88 counties has a Court of Common Pleas. Some small rural counties might just have a judge or two, but Cuyahoga County is big enough, 1.2 million people, so we have 34 judges on the court, and I'm running for one of the current open seats. The court handles civil cases, that is, cases where one person or a group is suing somebody else, from $15,000 up to millions, potentially billions of dollars, theoretically. And then on the criminal side, it handles felony cases up to and including death penalty cases. So the most serious cases under state law.
Okay. And pretty much, how long you been a magistrate in Cuyahoga County?
19 years. Before that, I was an assistant county prosecutor appointed by the late Stephanie Tubbs Jones. I served there for 6 years, most of that time in the felony trial unit. And before that, I was a lawyer with legal aid down in Tuscarawas County for 2.5 years. Most of my work there working on cases involving domestic violence, helping victims of domestic violence get civil protection orders, and also utility law cases, including several multi-million-dollar class action lawsuits that resulted in relief for tens of thousands of Ohio consumers.
Speaking of utility, we had the bribery thing. I'll bring that up later in the show. So as far as First Energy and Larry Householder, but I won't bring that up with you right now. That's something that I have to do a little later. The thing about it is that you handle everything from civil to criminal. And why should people vote for you for this particular office?
I hope they'll vote for me because they see that I've got the experience, the integrity, the temperament to do the job well. I've been very proud of my record as a magistrate in 19 years now. Even when people have disagreed with me, they've never said I've ever decided a case other than on the facts and the law. I've been thanked by people I ruled against, even though I didn't see things eye to eye with them, because they knew that they've received a fair trial. Everybody who comes before my court should know that they're going to be treated fairly and impartially, without fear or favor, bias or prejudice. And that's the kind of commitment to justice that I've had all my entire career, and that I would continue if I had the honor of being elected to the Court of Common Pleas.
Okay. So speaking of being elected to the Court of Common Pleas, as you know, we've had things, the Black Lives Matter movement, because of the systemic racism, pretty much that's in not only law enforcement, but judicial areas. So how would your court combat that if you were elected or when you're elected?
Absolutely. Well, it just comes back to my basic and absolutely heartfelt commitment to seeing the justice is done for everybody. I'm very proud of the endorsements I have from, for instance, Congresswoman Marsha Fudge, GPAC and FinPAC, which you probably know about, Larry, very passionately interested in criminal justice
Right,
reform.
especially FinPAC.
Women's Political Action Committee, from the Young Black Democrats of Ohio, Northeast Ohio, and I think my commitment to seeing the justice is done for everybody, and they know that I'm going to carry that commitment forward. Although the NAACP does not endorse candidates, I'm very proud of the fact that I have the highest rating from the Cleveland NAACP in my particular race.
Okay.
And I'll recognize my commitment to justice, and skin color should not enter into it at all.
Right.
Everybody has a fair trial. Everybody's entitled to equal justice.
Okay. So the thing about it is like, what would your court bring in the first when you're elected? What would the first 3 months of your court? How would you pretty much set it or organize it? Because there's not only a lot of African American, brown people, minorities, but there's also mental health cases as well. So, and
I'm very passionate with bail reform. I know you're very familiar with it, and your listeners also.
yes. Yeah, I did.
Race is the way to determine whether or not bail should be granted. My own view is that if you are not a definite flight risk and are not a risk to somebody else in the community, there's no reason a reasonable bond shouldn't be granted, or even personal bond. That's what I've been doing for 19 years, and that's what I do going forward. I want to send some specialized dockets to the court, as you mentioned, including the drug court, the mental health docket, the veterans court, and the more recently started domestic violence docket. These specialized dockets usually lead to better results, a more cost-effective approach to these cases, and more often than not lead to people finding the right path forward and not turning back to crime. And that makes very good sense morally, ethically, and just on the bottom line financially. You save taxpayers money when you treat these cases more effectively, taking a smarter, proactive approach to them, and that
Okay, so we had somebody was trying to call in, so I don't know who that was. If are they?
They're on the line now. You want to?
Yeah, I'm going to talk to them. So we have the first caller. Hopefully, it's a question for you, Mr. Magistrate. So, caller, hello, are you there? Okay, so apparently they're not. So apparently we have people that thought about the question and then they just go go away, go back. Right, yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So pretty much you believe in a fair trial for everybody, no matter how little or how little backing they think they have, or if they have a public defender, or if they're representing themselves.
You know, I'll tell you, Larry, I've had people as magistrates who come in and they'll say, they're charged with past offense or even a crime, and they'll say, it doesn't matter what I say because I know I'm going to get convicted anyway. And I will say, wait a minute, that's not fair. I'm here to see that you get a fair trial. If you want to go to trial, then we will. If you want to work out a plea agreement, for instance, with a prosecutor to save you some time and perhaps license case, for instance, to avoid points against your license, then by all means you should talk to them about that. But I want to assure them that they will receive a fair trial. I believe police officers when they testify before me. I disbelieve them. I ruled in favor of their prosecution. I ruled against the prosecution. It all depends on what the facts on the law of any particular case is, and you cannot take a cookie-cutter approach to these cases. You have to give every case the time and attention it deserves, and you have to make sure that people understand that they will receive a fair trial. Right. And I'm always keen to explain that to people and let them know that they'll get that fair trial. That's what they'd like to do.
Okay. So why run? Well, I mean, you've done so much work in being a magistrate. Why run and take the risk of maybe winning or losing? Why run? And what was the desire for you to run in the first place?
Well, I've had people urging me to run for many years, and the timing never quite seemed right. My wife Susan and I are blessed by two terrific high school and is looking into college. So they've all been very encouraging of me to make this run. And as I mentioned before, I just think this is a great time in my life to bring my experience, skills, my passion to submit the justice to a higher court. I'd like to be of service to a broader community. I've enjoyed my work with Cleveland Municipal Court. If I lose this race, then I'll be happy to continue to serve as a magistrate. I've had the honor of being elected, and I would really welcome the opportunity to bring my experience and skills to a higher court, to be of service to even more people, and to try to build on the reforms already underway in the Court of Common Pleas. We are still wrestling as a society, as a court, with the problem of systemic racism and of injustice.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to play the extent that I can as one of 34 judges. Constructive and proactive a role as I can in seeing that the courts work for everyone and that everyone is seeing that justice is done.
Okay. So what is the toughest case that you ever had in front of you as a magistrate, if you can go back? No, you've been here you probably had a lot of them, but just one in particular, you're going with most recent one in particular.
Sure. Well, there have been some civil cases in particular where somebody was suing somebody else, and for whatever reason, I got a bad vibe from one of the parties, but they happen to have the facts and the law on their side. Even if I didn't like them as a person, even if I see somebody I wouldn't want to invite over for dinner, if they have the facts and the law on their side, then they should win their case. John, the Chief Justice of the United States, once said in an interview that if you're always issuing rulings that you like, if you're always happy with the rulings that you're issuing, you're not doing the job right.
Right.
Sometimes you have to reach a conclusion that you might not personally like. If that's what the law and the facts lead you to, then that's your ethical obligation to do.
Okay.
And I've been in cases where, as I said, for whatever reason, I've not particularly liked the person I ended up ruling in favor of, but they have the facts and the law on their side, and that was my view.
Right. So it's very hard. You pretty much. And the thing about it is, as far as magistrates, how long do magistrates serve for?
Magistrates are doing good behavior, and I've been there 19 years, so I guess I'm behaving okay. We're a multi-judge court. On some courts, such as probate or domestic relations, you'll have a single magistrate serving a single judge. If the judge leaves office or decides that it's time for a change, then the magistrate might be out of the job. Of our court, we serve during the pleasure of all the judges as a whole. There's actually an old story, Larry, in our court that years ago, a particular magistrate got a particular judge very annoyed, and the judge said, "I'm going to get you fired." But then couldn't convince the majority of the other judges to fire that particular magistrate. So then that ended up outlasting that particular judge. But I don't want to take that risk. I want to keep all of the judges happy.
Right.
And I would say so far I have. There are times my judges turn to me because they know, if I may say, that I'm a very capable, seasoned magistrate, and some of these judges can be relied upon. One of my endorsement is actually by a former judge of our court, the Honorable Mabel Jasper, who I think you know.
Yes, I do. So yeah.
Fired from the court when she was ethically able to do so. She was one of the very first people to endorse me, and I'm very proud of her backing, because she knows the kind of good work I do and is confident that I can do a good job as a judge.
Okay, so we had this election and everything else around it has been unusual. First, you had the pandemic that hit in March. Then you had the riots and the protests for the death of George Floyd, also Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blakely, unarmed African-American people shot by the police. And yes, far too long. And then you had, on top of that, a contentious presidential election, which has gone all the way until now, even though we're in its final days of everything.
Yes. Very tragic death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yes. On top of that, so how are you able to maintain your campaign through all this mess that we've been going through, tragedy, The coronavirus taking out nationwide 240,000 people with cases going up by the day, wearing masks, trying to campaign. How have you maintained your campaign?
It's been a real challenge, I'll tell you, and we're all kind of making up as we go along. We've not had as extensive and as dangerous a public health crisis in this country in a century since the Spanish flu outbreak right after World War I. And we are all trying to do our best to make sure that the processes of democracy go forward. I mean, we had an election in the middle of the Civil War with President Lincoln facing re-election. During World War II and in past crises, the Great Depression and so forth. And we have to ensure that democracy still works for everybody and that the democratic process goes forward. So, of course, like many other people, we're turning to Zoom, we're turning to radio, we're turning to texting and email and so forth. We are doing some list drops, but for instance, we're not asking people to come to the door, we're just leaving things for them. And we want to make sure everybody is safe, of course. That has to be a priority. But we also want to make sure that they know about the candidates who are seeking their election, myself included. And we want to make sure that people are able to vote, and of course that every vote is counted. I have to say, fortunately, that has been particularly challenging, and it does not help to have the President of the United States, downgrading vote by mail, downgrading all sorts of things, which most of elections across the country have been doing for years and years. But I think because he assumes it's not going to help him, then of course he's going to badmouth.
Of course.
And that's a terrible example to set. We should expect better of the President of the United States.
Right. So we had, like I said, we expect a lot better. I actually did, but sometimes you can be disappointed by the top. What did you think about, speaking of President of the United States, what was your opinion about the presidential debates and the vice presidential debates that were going on in the town halls?
Of course. Debates have a long history in America, of course. There was Lincoln Douglas debates, most notably with Earl, Nixon in 1960, and virtually every election since then. And I personally was very disappointed by the tenor of them. The first presidential election, of course, we were honored, of course, to have it here in Cleveland. But it was also very discouraging to see the president constantly interrupting, breaking the rules.
President interrupting and doing all that kind of crazy stuff.
Although he was probably, even at that time, ill with COVID-19 or was close to being so. And he and his entourage went into the Health Education Center at Cleveland Clinic, and having worn masks to enter the door, then took them off when they got inside. And that has been the whole approach of the White House all along. Ohio does have non-partisan general elections. I did do a Democratic primary, and I am proud to be a Democrat.
Okay.
And when we have a president who is constantly attacking the independent judiciary, who's constantly attacking the rule of law, who talks about Mexican judges and, rushes through a Supreme Court appointment at the people of the members of his party said 4 years ago that we should wait until voters have a say, then I just want to make it clear that's not something I stand for. That's not something I approve of. And I think we need to be committed to an independent judiciary, the rule of law. And if we say we're going to do something, we need to follow through and do it and not change our tune as soon as the political wind shifts a bit.
Right. So before we go on break, before I let you go, I know you got to get back to the campaign trail. How can people commit to you and help with your campaign?
Well, thank you. If people would like to check out my website, I would encourage them to. It is Vodrey.com. That's VOTEVODREY.com. Vodrey.com. They're welcome to take a look at everything there is to see there, including my views on major issues of the day, the endorsements I have, including, I'm very proud to say, U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown, 11 unions, Congressman Fudge, as I mentioned before, the Black Women's Political Action Committee, a lot of great elected office holders, community leaders, and ordinary citizens across this great county of ours. If they would like to volunteer, there's a button to click on that. We're a little late in the game now for yard signs and so forth, but if you want to, if you like what you see and you want to spread the word to friends and family, other voters, then that'd be great.
All right.
As you know, to see about a 50% drop off of people who vote for president who then vote down ballot for the judges. So I would just encourage everybody to make sure they vote all the way down the ballot, including, I hope, for me, William Vodrey, for the Court of Common Pleas. I'd be deeply honored to have their support and their vote.
All right. Thank you very much, Magistrate Vodrey, and I will please, good luck and Godspeed on the campaign. Listen to the rest of the broadcast. When we come back, we'll talk about pretty much Lil Wayne. Shout out to the people that are looking on my Facebook Live: Mary Trevismo, Maxine Price, R.C. Glenn, Troy Harris, Sherry Berry. 216-772-0500 is the number to call in. When we get back, we'll talk more about Lil Wayne, and we'll talk. First, we're going to talk about something else that just came up. Breonna Taylor's killers are suing the boyfriend, so we'll talk about that when we get back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. All right. I'm going to shut this off right now. Hey, what's going on, people? Come back. We'll talk about this in a minute. So.